Defense Principal Secretary Mutea Iringo skipped summons to appear before the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Committee probing corruption allegations in the suspended Ababu-led Public Accounts Committee. But Alangi MP Ababu Namwamba claimed the Principal Secretary bribed members of the committee to expunge his name from the committee's report where he was adversely mentioned. Your Parliamentary Affairs reporter Aaron Ochieng is on phone from Parliament. Good afternoon, Aaron, if you could hear me.
Good afternoon, Najma.
So why is it important that he appears before the Powers and Privileges Committee?
It is very important that Principal Secretary Iringo appears before the Privileges Committee, since he's been adversely mentioned as the person who gave the bribe to members of the PSC to influence the report so that could expunge the names of powerful individuals that were involved in shady deals in the office of the president at that time that he was the permanent secretary there. So he was to appear this morning, but he sent apologies that he had to travel out of the country abruptly. So the committee excused him, but they have given him a later date to appear.
Oh, okay. What business was the committee conducting then this morning?
Yeah, the communication from Mutea Iringo came a little bit late. The committee was expecting him, but a little bit of housekeeping here and there, just to check on who the people who have already been interviewed, the kind of testimony they've given, and anticipate the next person they're coming to interview. So they broke the committee a little bit early this morning, since Mutea Iringo did not show up. Najma.
Who else do we expect to appear?
Tomorrow we are expecting the leader of majority, Eden Duale, to appear early in the morning, and also Deputy Chief Whip from the opposition, Jakoyo Midio, has also been summoned. That is according to the chairperson of the Privileges Committee. Those two people are supposed to appear tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Aaron Ochieng there will be keeping us up to speed with the happenings there. Now, moving on, over 90,000 residents of Kieni constituency in Nyeri County are facing starvation. Kieni, which is the largest constituency in Nyeri County, is on the leeward side of Mount Kenya and is often hit by famine. The residents are hard hit and currently some require relief food to mitigate the situation. Kieni legislator Kanini Kega was in the area to provide part of the relief food that is to be issued in different parts of the vast county, which is classified by the National Drought Management Authority as a semi-arid area. Kieni is sandwiched between Mount Kenya and Aberdare, and many feel that with the right measures, the water from these water towers could be used for irrigation. Rivers are partially dried up, further aggravating the drought situation.
We are hoping that the government will come to our aid. The government will now, not just a matter of giving the relief food. We don't want relief food. We want our 8 mega dams to start in earnest. Once we get those dams, I can assure you, Kieni will even be feeding other regions in this area. There is a food basket of Nyeri County. This will be the food basket of the whole central Kenya.
Now, thousands of residents in West Pokot are suffering due to water shortage in the region, a situation that has interrupted learning as pupils are forced to drop out of school in search of pasture and water for their livestock and domestic use. Cases of miscarriages among women in the region have also been reported, as pregnant women are forced to walk over 10,000 kilometers in search of water in the few scattered boreholes available. But it is a struggle at the water point as people and animals compete for water. Other water alternatives like dams and rivers have dried up, leading to congestion for the water at the boreholes. Residents are now calling on the national and county government to put measures that will deal with the harsh condition.
Changamoto ambayo naweza kutaja saa hizi ambapo kama serikali hawatakuja kuokoa ni kwamba sidhani kama tutafikia tarehe ya kufunga shule, kwa sababu saa hizi kama vile wanafunzi hakuna maji na hatuwezi kuendelea bila maji.
Now, the Parliamentary Caucus on Human Rights has given proposals to the Refugees Bill 2015, currently being fine-tuned in Parliament. The Kenya Parliamentary Human Rights Association held a fact-finding mission with the refugees, government officials and members of the host community in the Dadaab refugee camp, and came up with several proposals, including integrating refugees with other Kenyans by giving them necessary documents such as identity cards. Now, members of the task force led by Kibra MP Kenneth Okol said the refugees who have lived in Kenya for over 2 decades should be allowed dual citizenship, as many of them intermarried with the local community. The caucus also said that they will petition Parliament to increase funds to the Department of Refugees Affairs and give them autonomy to deal with the refugees.
Kenya is going to have to make a bold decision that these refugees who have lived with us for 25 years, we must come up with a way to make them Kenyans and move them and integrate them to live in other parts of Kenya.
We really need to see what is the best you can do with the young refugees, because idle youth sitting in the camps, incarcerated, no one knows what they're doing. That could be a ticking time bomb, both in terms of unemployment issues, but also in terms of security.
Once we come up with a law that also strengthens the management of the refugees, we will be a first in the region to make sure that human rights of the refugees are taken care of, and also the rights of the hosting community.
Now, let's turn to insecurity in Mandera, and the governor there has been recounting the events surrounding the attack on his convoy, in which 3 people were killed. A short while ago, we got this update from Asha Mwilu, who had an exclusive interview with the governor, who now says his life is in danger.
Now, when the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, visited Mandera town on Saturday, one promise that he made to the residents here and to the governor, Ali Roba, whose life had just been threatened by the Al-Shabaab militia, was that there would be a heightened presence of police officers here on the ground. When we arrived here on Sunday morning, we expected to see a multitude of police officers, uniformed and armed, patrolling this town. But that's not the case. The town is actually pretty calm. The tension that is expected from people from Nairobi and the other parts of the country is not actually what we've reported seeing here on the ground. About 75 kilometers up this road is where the governor was attacked. The governor's convoy was heading to the interiors, one of the villages, for an official function for the county. And what happened is that one theory that was reported on the press is that the Al-Shabaab targeted the governor. But one theory that is also coming up is that the Al-Shabaab were actually targeting 2 Mira vehicles plying that route, and that the governor was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. We got an opportunity to speak to the governor this afternoon, and he was choking up just imagining and trying to recall the incident that happened. This is what he had to say.
We passed an area where there was a lot of camels, and very suspiciously by the road, you know, as if it was planned for slowing down the vehicles. All our vehicles, we've, you know, left the main road and veered off the edge to continue with the same speed and pass because of that suspicion. Unfortunately, as we continued past that point, we have radio. The vehicles communicate with each other through handheld radio communication. We had a bit of radio noise, and thereafter we stopped, you know, just to wait for the other vehicles, and realized that our security vehicle passed, and the vehicles behind, there was no, you know, telephone, you know, coverage. And realizing that the other vehicles are not coming, I sent both my security vehicles, the one that was ahead and right behind after my car, back to go and check on those guys. And they went back and got into live fire.
Now, Friday's incident is actually not isolated. The same road where the governor was attacked is the same road where 28 Kenyans lost their lives last year when Al-Shabaab militants attacked them when they were en route to Nairobi. And the governor actually brought out a point that most of us haven't heard of. After that attack in November, there was an operational command center that was set up. And one of the issues they were supposed to do is have massive patrols and constant patrols on that road. That, however, has not been happening. According to Governor Ali Roba, the patrol has only been going on for about 1 month, and after that, it's back to the same old laxity here in Mandera County.
I believe that our security system has failed. You know, this is my very honest position. A radical redesign of how we go about managing our security system is required. His Excellency the President really need to come to terms. First, with security management is not one shoe size fits all. Specific areas of operation, difficulties in terms of these areas, the circumstances that we need to deal with need to be taken into consideration. Obviously, if we are not able to respond in a timely manner, then there's no security management that we can talk about.
Now, from our initial conversation with residents here, one concern that is emerging is that devolution has created a real opportunity for Mandera County that has long been forgotten by the national government. One that seems to have development in mind, but insecurity is posing a great threat and is proving to derail the development that is happening, especially in Mandera County. So as these threats just intensify, the question from these residents in this specific county is, will the national government step up, or will the national government allow this county to be run by the Al-Shabaab? Reporting from Mandera County, my name is Asha Mwilu.
Now, News Just In indicates that there has been an explosion in Mandera County at the border point. Now, 3 targets are likely to have been officers on patrol. No reports on casualty have been reported so far. We're joined by our senior reporter, Asha Mwilu, who happens to be in Mandera. Asha, what's happening there?
Yeah, Najma, we are in Mandera County, and we understand that there's been an explosion reported a few kilometers from Mandera town. Najma, there hasn't been any confirmation from security agencies as we speak right now on what the target was or who initiated that explosion. I understand it might have been officers from the KTN, or it might have been a landmine set probably by the Al-Shabaab along the border. We hear that border.
It seems like we've lost Asha Mwilu there, but there was reports of explosion at the border points, and reports indicate that the officers on patrol were being targeted. We still don't know if there have been any casualties. We will be giving you details of that story in a short while. We'll try and get Asha Mwilu back on air. Now, moving on, residents of Chemarmar village in Uasin Gishu County accounting losses. They claim wild animals invaded their farm, killing several sheep and seriously injuring others. The residents woke up to scenes of mutilated animals spread across their farms this morning. The sheep, estimated to be worth over 100,000 Kenyan shillings, is believed to have been attacked by a pack of wild dogs. They say the wild animals have been wreaking havoc in the area for quite some time now, and want the Kenya Wildlife Service officials to remove the marauding canines before they experience further loss of livestock.
Wakati wa kiangaza kama saa hii ndio inakuja inakula. Kwa hivyo tunaona tu ni mzuri hii watu wenye wanyama, watu wa wildlife wamekuja wakaangalia, ndio tuone wasaidia kwa mai.
Tumethibitisha kwamba ni mnyama porini imeua, na hii mnyama tunaita umbwa koko, ambaye ni iko na asili ya umbwa, na tumejaribu kuweka mitego, ingawaje tumekamata kidogo, ingawaje imekuwa nadra sana kuzikamata.
Now, following the rising cases of cattle rustling and consumption of illicit brew in Naivasha, residents now want the government to put in measures that will end the vices. Led by their local leaders, the residents say that elderly persons have targeted where suspected raiders slaughter their cattle before ferrying meat to unknown destinations. This comes a fortnight after 3 suspects were arrested after slaughtering 2 dairy cows and a donkey. The residents also want the police to move with haste and arrest those involved in the selling of illicit brews.
Tena wakakuja mwezi ya pili wakabeba hiyo ng'ombe zangu. Sasa hivi niko hapa ninaendelea tu na kulipa roni na hakuna kwenye ninafanya kazi. Mzee yangu anafanya kazi ya fude ya kusota maji na ameisiwa na nguvu. Sasa mimi nimefika mwisho juu sina mbele ama nyuma.
Walikuwa wanapeleka zile nyama wapi? Lazima waelezee walikuwa wanapeleka wapi, sababu hakuna yule anaiba na yule anapelekewa, wote wako sawa.
Welcome back to KTN Newsdesk. Now we joined Asha Mwilu, who is in Mandera, where reports of an explosion have been reported a few kilometers from Mandera town. Asha Mwilu, if you can hear me, what is happening on the ground?
Yeah, Najma, what confirmation that we're getting is that the attack happened at around 11:30 a.m. this morning. An improvised explosive device went off at a border point, Somali-Kenya border point. It's actually known as border point 3, a few kilometers from Mandera town, and it appears to have been targeting officers on patrol. It might have been targeting soldiers from the Kenya Defense Forces or police officers who usually go to the border to patrol the area. So Najma, when you hear about the porous border in Mandera, this is what comes to mind. I mean, a long stretch, many kilometers, where the Al-Shabaab from Somalia can take advantage and trickle in and out of Kenya. And what officials have been trying to do is just patrol some of those critical areas that are usually targeted by militiamen. And they've become quite the target for the Al-Shabaab here in Mandera. So the easiest way to attack officers is to just plant IEDs along the borders, IEDs along their pathways. So this is not one of those isolated incidents, but I can say that it's very serious considering what's been happening in Mandera the last couple of weeks, and especially the last 1 week when the governor here was of the Al-Shabaab militants. So that's my can describe the security situation in Mandera right now as fragile, and that's how I think police officers here are treating the situation. Najma?
Well, Asha, you've been there for a few days. How was the security? Was it improved? Were there any visible police officers patrolling, or was it just normal?
Yeah, Najma, I mean, as I gave you that update, I think police officers on the Kenyan side are being a bit, they're changing the strategy a bit, because if you just put out a multitude of uniformed officers, then, I don't know, it wouldn't really change the situation that much. But I know that there's been massive patrols at night, because that's the period when Al-Shabaab likes to strike, because during the night, of course, low visibility, it's very hard for residents or citizens and even officials, the security agents themselves, to track down the movement of the Al-Shabaab. So during the day, of course, there's the normal operation, police officers trying to check the taxis around town. In fact, yesterday, what we noticed is that KTN soldiers were bringing down taxis and checking who is driving. Do you have a Kenyan ID? Where are you from? Where are you heading? Because that's one of the ways that the Al-Shabaab have been targeting non-locals and security agents in this town using the provoke taxis. So that's one of the heightened activity that we noticed. But in terms of like coming here during the day, you don't expect to see like very many uniformed and armed police officers patrolling. But at night time, that's definitely the case.
Oh, thank you very much. Asha Mwilu will be giving us details of what is happening in Mandera in our subsequent bulletins. We now join Michael Karanja, who will give us an insight on smartphone penetration.
That's right, Najma, Ismail. The craze around the world over the last few years has been mobile devices. And I'm now joined by a man who I quite rightfully say can be an authority in this field. He's a former Apple CEO and co-founder of Obi Mobiles. John Scully, welcome to KTN.
Thank you, Michael.
If you just start, what was the vision behind creating Obi mobile devices?
We're at a very interesting moment because the smartphone has become an even more important product in the world for consumers than television. And in the emerging markets, particularly in Africa and the Middle East, smartphones are replacing feature phones, and smartphones are growing at 300% a year. So it's an amazingly good time to introduce true innovation into this industry as we go through the transformation. And Obi Mobiles is designed in Silicon Valley, the former team that worked with me at Apple. And we are bringing in the very best, most powerful technologies, but we're bringing them in at very aggressive price points.
I guess the key selling point for Obi Mobiles devices has been the selling point, and your target for a certain more affordable range of smartphones. So perhaps what's the thinking behind the pricing? I hear it's about between $100 and $200.
Exactly, and we believe that there are going to be about 2 billion new people joining the middle class over the next decade. Most of those people are going to be in the emerging markets. A very large percentage of them will be in Africa. And we think that this is the perfect time that over the next 36 months that the brands will be firmly established in the emerging markets that will go forward for probably the next 10 years. And so we're coming out with Obi with the best design, focused on design products, because we think these are really cultural products. They are an expression of one's personality. They're what's called fashion electronics, not just high technology.
All right, so John Scully, perhaps if you look at it, over the last few years, the competition has been especially for devices, and every year we see Samsung, Apple, Oppo, Huawei, and the likes coming up with different devices. Now, how do you fit into that whole matrix of competition, especially for smartphones?
Well, last week I was in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress, and that's where everybody shows their new products for the year. And what's interesting is that all of those companies you named are targeting their design at $600 to $800 devices. Well, the majority of the people may aspire to those types of products, but they just don't have the personal budget that's going to be, well over a month or 2 months' wages for someone. So we said, let's bring the best quality of design, fit, finish, materials, with the highest quality technology, 3G, particularly 4G as we move into that now, but bring them at much more aggressive prices, the $100 to $200 US price points. And that's very possible because we're able to leverage the very large international supply chain and distribution business we have, over $1 billion in India and Southeast Asia, and another $1.4 billion in the North American continent. So we're taking advantage of some resources we have and the background we have in technology, particularly mobile devices, to be able to come in at this moment because we think it's a transformation moment.
Obviously, looking at Kenya, Kenya is obviously the first country in East Africa that you're coming to. The focus for emerging markets, is that where you see the greatest, especially penetration for smartphones? Because I guess now the conversation has moved from desktop to more of handheld devices, especially with mobile data.
Exactly, and what I believe is going to happen is if you take something like M-Pesa, which is a real innovation that came out of Kenya, but it began 10 years ago with feature phones, and so it was just a feature in and of itself. That's all feature phones could do. Well, now that we're moving into smartphones, particularly 4G LTE smartphones, M-Pesa can become a platform. And there's a chance to do innovation for mobile services on top of that. And so we're purposely designing our smartphones, our Obi Mobiles, to be well positioned for that opportunity here in Kenya. Kenya has been a place that has not gotten the priority from certainly the Western countries, and we think that it's time now for a Western design, in this case Silicon Valley design, to be able to come in and add something. You already have a Korean design with Samsung, you have Techno, which is a Chinese design. Well, we want to bring a Silicon Valley design to this market.
And just looking at that, obviously Techno and most recently I had Oppo is coming to the market. Are you positioning yourself especially, because now it's going to be a bit of a cutthroat competition, especially for getting something a quality smartphone in your hand?
I believe that the reason why we're so optimistic is because the market is growing. If we were going into a market that didn't have growth, it would mean taking business away from a competitor. in a market that's growing at 300% a year, it's room for everybody to have some level of success. And yet if we waited another 3 or 4 years, it'd be too late. The market then would settle down. And so we think this is exactly the right time to be coming in with this type of a recipe, which is beautiful design, fit and finish, fashion electronics, but no compromises on the highest quality technology we can deliver at very, very affordable prices, particularly for young people, 15 to 25 years old.
I was looking at that bracket, brand slogan, whoever you are. What was behind that? Is it actually trying to get that person to aspire to actually have that kind of nice finished smartphone and not aspire to an Apple or just be a stepping or be a bridge to that new other phone?
Well, I think that many young people aspire to the most expensive phones that are available, but the reality is they don't have the budget. And so we said we understand the technology world well enough now to realize that the technology can be packaged in a very, very affordable design, if you're willing to take lower profit margins. And so we come in with our experience in Southeast Asia and India, particularly Vietnam, Bangladesh, countries like this, where we're used to thin profit margins, we're used to frugal expense models, and yet we also have our Silicon Valley heritage. And so we said that's a pretty good recipe because it gives us the ability to come in and be aggressive with pricing, at the same time not compromising on technology, because young people really know technology. They look at those features. They want to make sure that they're not giving up something by going to one of these aggressively priced products. And yet at the same time, we think that the lowest end of the market, which is largely one of the many thousands of Chinese factories that are selling products off the street, that's really not the part of the market we have any interest in, because there's no follow-up service support. What do you do when a screen breaks? You don't even know who those people are. So we're looking at that opportunity that's lower price than the premium brands, no compromise on the design, far away from the street-sold products.
All right, thank you very much. That has been John Scully, co-founder of Obi Mobile, just telling us about Obi Mobile's entry into Kenya and how they're playing it at a lower price point by but still giving quality mobile phones in the market. Najma Ismail, what's happening at the Kenya Rugby Union?
Well, before we go to sports, we wish to apologize for a story we read earlier about drought in Pokot, where we reported that pregnant women walk 10,000 kilometers in search of water. It is actually 10 kilometers. We now move on to sports, where the Kenya Rugby Union's annual general meeting will go on this evening after the High Court in Nairobi rejected an application for an injunction against it. The injunction had been applied by the Sasha Mutai's wing, but IGA Court Judge Alfred Mabea, sitting at the Milimani courts, dismissed the application. The judge stated that the application was made in bad since the Sasha's group were not denied their rights to contest during the AGM. Clubs affiliated to the unions will elect new office bearers. Now, former union chairman Richard Omwela will be seeking re-election and will have to fight it out with the acting chairman Gabriel Ouko. Well, that's it on Newsdesk. We'll be keeping an eye on that Mandera story, so keep it KTN. My name is Najma Ismail. Enjoy your afternoon.